Good evening, Anime and Manga 2.0. Chris asked me to do a review for free, also known as Free Iwatobi Swim Club or Free Eternal Summer, depending on what season you watched. I personally like to call it Swimming Homos, because let's be realistic here, it's probably gayer than any yaoi you've ever seen, even though it's not yaoi, it's a sports anime. Whatever you like to call the show, it's basically an anime about swimming and fan service. Mostly fan service. I mean, there's definitely a lot of swimming, but mostly fan service. For those who don't know, Free originally started as a promo from Kyoto Anime to show off their new animation techniques involving water. It was based off the visual novel High Speed, I think it's called, and it gained a lot of popularity through that promo. Like, it was all over Reddit, 4chan, Tumblr. The popularity was actually staggering. It became so popular that it became a 2-season anime as well as a movie. Plus, you know, the OVAs and the specials that are adorable. For those interested in the story about swimming, the novel High Speed goes far more in depth with the characters, while the anime it does go into the characters, but it sticks mostly with the swimming part and the fan service part. Except for season 2. Season 2 goes right into feels and a lot of crying and shit. But for the most part, if you want to know the story and try to skip the fan service, I would go read High Speed. The story revolves around a boy named Haruko Nanase, who is known as a genius swimmer. He follows the philosophy of, I only swim free. He doesn't care about his speed or his timing, he doesn't care about winning, all he cares about is being one with the water. His best friend Makoto Tachibana is the one that suggests they join the swimming center so they can swim together. As Makoto says, it's not the same without you. I can't swim alone, it has to be with you. But let's get past that for a minute here. Let's get past that for a minute and look at the story. Upon joining the swimming center, they meet Nagisa, who's a little Shota boy, who desperately wants to fit in with everybody and tries his best to be friends with everybody. They also meet Rin Matsuoka, who is also known to be a really excellent swimmer. However, he aspires to be like Haru because Haru supposedly swims the best, has the most beautiful style, etc. He literally transfers from his elementary school to Haru's elementary school just to swim with him. Like, the anime is really big on bromances and friendship, but it's a little... While the anime follows the mechanics of swimming very well, as they do follow the footage of Olympic swimmers and basically paste them onto their characters, they do over-exaggerate a lot of the characters' development, such as Ray being able to swim the butterfly stroke when he can't even do a regular swim. Like, he literally sinks to the bottom every time. It's humorous, but a little exaggerated. For the most part, the first season is considered mostly fan service, as well as Rin being an angsty little shit, and it has a lot of humor. But for the most part, that's what season 1 is. The ending is actually really spectacular. A lot of heartwarming emotions happen in that. But overall, if you're going in there expecting a hardcore sports anime like Haikyuu, Hajime no Ippo, or Kuroko no Basket, or whatever sports anime you watch, you're probably not in the right genre, because I think they were aiming more toward fan service and story and slice of life versus actual sports. So they do get pretty intense with the swimming. Season 2, however, goes more in depth with the characters. You get everybody's backstory, you get a lot of crying, as we call it. It's eternal suffering. But overall, it's more of a slice of life anime and has 2 great endings, but not exactly what I would recommend for sports. Even though I did say it is mostly melodrama and slice of life based, one thing that did stand out to me, even though it's all school based, is one of the main characters, and this is a major spoiler alert, one of the major character, Haruko Nanase, who is usually very apathetic toward everything and very relaxed and chill. In season 2, he has an anxiety attack, a very severe one, and then he goes basically into a disassociative state, and I found the way they handled that to be very exquisite. The art describing his emotions, the dreams he had up to that point, the way he hyperventilated, the way he stopped, I thought all of that was actually really well done. So while, yes, it might be melodramatic and silly and high schoolish, I do think they handle certain serious scenes very well. So there is that. But I digress. On to the review. Soundtrack. Soundtrack actually really took me by surprise. I got into this anime literally because of that silly promo. I thought, oh, cute little boys swimming and silliness, that sounds like a great time. Yeah, when the opening first starts, it's hardcore rock. Well, maybe not hardcore, but for that specific style anime, it took me by surprise. And I have to say, both openings are rock and they're both really good to me. I listen to them all the time. The endings are much more pop and catchy and dance worthy, and I also think they're really good because they fit the fun side of the anime. Though season two's ending drives you nuts after 9 episodes of sadness, and you're here going, Future Fish, yeah, we're all happy and having a great future, and I'm just like, fuck you, Future Fish. Fuck you up the ass. But besides that, the soundtracks are really, really good. I would give that a solid 8 out of 10, definitely. The art going into the openings and endings are really fantastic. They show all the characters beautifully while showing a bit of the angst that goes into the series as well as the humor that goes into the series, all within one opening and the other opening. Tumblr people were like dissecting that, and it was really funny to me. But you can really dissect the openings and endings, and I think that's really neat. As for the soundtrack in the anime itself, I think it's very fitting for every scene. When it's a nice swimming action scene, you get the upbeat music, the craziness going down, and then when it's a nice sad scene, they have the sad music that correlates. It's nice. It all it all combines really well together. I think the dubstep thing they have going in episode 1 and a couple of other episodes is a little silly and cheesy, especially when Rin Matsuoka is introduced. I was just kind of almost embarrassed watching it. I was like, oh, you're trying really hard to be cool, okay. But overall, the soundtrack is definitely an 8 out of 10. I think it's really good. Story-wise, I would give it probably a 4 out of 10. It's nothing spectacular. It does address different issues characters are going through. It does go into probably everyday problems that people normally have, like Nagisa having issues with his parents being too strict and constraining him from doing things he wants to do, and that makes him very sad. It goes into anxiety, as I said with Haru. It goes into Makoto's fear of the water, go figure as a swimmer. It goes into Rei's perfectionism. But even though it addresses character problems, it's overall just a slice of life anime that's not spectacular. It's not intricate, it's not enthralling. Maybe people can relate to it, but overall, yeah, 4 out of 10. The endings, though, as I said before, are very heartwarming, so that almost would make me raise it just for the endings alone. But that just depends on how attached to the characters you are. Since we're on the topic of characters, let's go with characters and character development. Character development, I would give a 6 out of 10. Even if it's just a regular story with again, melodramatic high school, they do go pretty in depth with the characters. You see them develop, you see how Nagisa goes from attention-seeking to really depressed and wanting something out of his life to really striving and bettering himself. He becomes a little shit, but it's a good thing. He develops, and after meeting Rei, I think a lot of his internal issues come out, and he cries when he has to speak with his parents, and a lot of that's addressed. Haru goes from apathetic, not caring, just wanting to try the water, to having a purpose in life, finding things to strive for. Makoto decides what he wants to do, what he wants to pursue. He finally has an argument with Haru, which is something that never happens. If anybody watches it, they're basically husband and wife. It's kind of ridiculous. I think all of them go through really good development overall. As for characters themselves, I actually adore every single character, which I did not expect. Especially with Nitori, I thought Nitori was going to drive me up the wall. But I actually think they're all really great, probably because it's a lighthearted series, so you're not looking too in-depth in them unless you're Tumblr. All the characters have over-the-top personalities, which is probably something I really enjoy, because even if they're not realistic as Rex would possibly call them, I find that that's not what I like about anime. I like the over-the-top dramatic characters because they stand out more and they give you more of an impression of their emotions. Each character is pretty different. Rei is over-analytical, and yet he cares too much about beauty. So he'll be sitting there critical of himself, thinking of the algorithm that goes behind jumping over a wall or doing a certain stroke. But then the next moment he's thinking, but do I look beautiful while doing it? And I think that's really silly and entertaining. Haru is overall indifferent and listless, unless it comes to swimming, then his passion seems to come out. But I don't think he likes people seeing him being passionate, so I think he's overly conscious. He doesn't really smile very much, and when he does smile, it's usually censored, I guess, because it's just not something they want. That's not his character personality, I guess. Makoto is like the mother of the group or the wife of the group. He's always taking care of everybody. He's always making sure everybody's happy. He is a safe person. He's the go-to. Nagisa's the little shit who is there for laughs and shenanigans, but yet deep down he has a lot of issues that he's working through and a lot of self-consciousness that he's not sure how to address. Rin for season 1 was like the most obnoxious character ever because he had a lot of emo things going on. He had a lot of stress from Australia that he had to go through, the fact that he was never number 1, the fact that he could never beat Haru. All of these things were a little over the top, but they pan over very well into season 2 because he grows so much and he is very supportive and he takes care of his team, but he also takes care of Haru's team and he shows kindness to everybody and he shows them how to develop. He pulls them out of their darkness and brings them into better places, like when he takes Haru to Australia, spoiler alert. Things like that are really good character development, even with his little anger issues. Shout out to Seijuro because he's the only heterosexual character in the damn anime. I don't care what anyone says. Like, straight man, he's the best. He has the greatest smile. He cares so much for Go, aka Rin's sister, and he just wants to be hetero, and why can't anybody else, right? His brother Momotaru, we thought he was going to be straight, but now he's kind of like on this weird border because he loves Rin's sister, but he kind of seems to hit on Rin. But either way, he's eccentric and he's fun and he's really good when it comes to athletics, but he's just, a little over the top. Sosuke, he's got a lot of anger issues, but he's really entertaining to watch because he cares so much about Rin and he's self-sacrificing. It's actually almost painful to see what he goes through for these people. Like, you're just like, Sosuke, calm down. It's not that serious, alright? It's just swimming. It's an anime about swimming. Nobody should be crying over this shit. It's serious. Art and animation, I would definitely give a solid 9 out of 10. And that might be over-exaggerating to some, but I think the animation was flawless. So the entire point of them animating Free was to show off their beautiful water animation, and I think it was flawless. There's never a scene where I'm just like, wow, that's really tacky animation for water. It's always just fluid, it's consistent, and it's wonderful to watch. It's so gorgeous. The overall art of the characters is very detailed, as the fan service shows. It's a lot of details in the muscles, the biceps, the triceps, the calves, all of that. They really concentrate on it when it's swimming. For the most part, I think it's very consistent in the animation. Sometimes they overhype it like a shonen, but overall, the art is just really gorgeous. The coloring, everything is on point. So solid 9 out of 10 for me. Also, the scenery that takes place is hand-drawn to exactly replicate real places. Like in Australia, you can see them side by side and see how drastically you can see them side by side and compare how beautiful both look. They're both very intricate and very detailed. Overall, I definitely think the art is high quality. For those who feel like there's a lack of females, Go, the manager, is a female. She is Rin Matsuoka's sister. She kind of has a little bit of a brother complex, which is, questionable sometimes. But overall, she has an obsession with muscles and fan service. She's very passionate about swimming, and she brings a lot to the table. She's able to control the ridiculous, eccentric behaviors of the characters. And she's a great character. Another female character is the teacher. She likes to spout words of wisdom that usually don't make sense or are misread. Like, she'll take one reference and another reference and put them together, and it just don't correlate at all. It's actually very entertaining. She has a background as a swimsuit model, and she wants to pretend that that never happened, so that's a fun little thing that happens in the plot. Kind of it for the characters. I mean, there's a bunch more, but I'm not really going to go into detail about every single character. It's kind of over the top and a mess. Addressing the overall score, I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. Again, probably overhyping it a little bit, but that's just my personal interpretation of the anime. If we go objectively, I don't know. I don't really know what score I'd give it. Maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10. But subjectively, I actually really enjoyed this anime. I got along with a lot. It's actually one of the reasons I got into Tumblr is a lot of us would go and post a bunch of GIFs of it and be entertained with the characters, whether it's the OVA where they're having a water gun fight, or if it's the moments where they're being silly and doing weird races, or overall it's just entertaining. I'm not watching this anime for intricacy like Evangelion or freaking mushishi. I'm watching it just to pass the time and watch something without having to think too hard. That's the kind of anime this is. Yes, it might be sports, but it's really not, again, intricate in the sports department. It's just a casual slice of life with humor. And I think that for what it is, 6 out of 10. I think it does the category justice. And if you're not entertained watching this anime, I don't know what to tell you. It's just not your type of anime. I do recommend this anime specifically to women and gay men. However, if you keep an open mind and can ignore the fan service, I think anybody can watch it. It's just, can you keep an open mind and ignore the fan service? Because there's a lot of it. I hope you enjoyed my review. I think I addressed everything. I'm not entirely sure. Admin staff, signing off.